conflict oftentimes feels like, well, you don't like me anymore. Or in relationship or marriage, well, you don't love me anymore. We just shouldn't be together. And, we blow up like that. And then it's this, well, wait, actually, no, like we took vows. We entered a covenant. And I want to honor that more than I want to deal with this conflict. I don't want this to tear us apart.
Hey, Podcast, welcome to Life Together, Wisdom for Marriage, Singleness, and Relationships. I'm Dr. Melissa Ortiz-Berry, and today my co-host is...
Agam, and today we'll be talking about why we struggle to connect in our marriages and relationships, and we have a special guest today, Sarah Halstead. Sarah is a licensed counselor with Christians as Family Advocates, CAFA, and also at Bushnell.
Sarah, why are we struggling to connect? Why? What is the connection issues people are having in relationships? What is going on? People are arguing. They're not agreeing on things. I mean, this is about what? Family, kids, money?
Yes, but really it's not about money. It's not about kids. It's not about whatever problem we're struggling to find a solution for. It's really about what we're bringing into the relationship. So there's this thing called family of origin, and it's kind of the theory that when I entered the world, someone taught me how to live. And then I grew up and I became an adult and I emerged into the world and tried to make my own world with somebody else. And whatever I learned might differ from what they learned. And sometimes we come up and we butt heads against things that maybe are higher in the value system, but we learned how to do them differently. We learned how to navigate it differently. We may even have learned that they have different depths of how much time and resource we should invest in them. So those things, conflict comes up when oftentimes my world perspective and my worldview butts up against somebody else's. And
so can you give us an example? Like what might this look like in someone's life? Like a real life example.
It's everywhere. It's hidden in all these little tiny nooks and crannies. So like a goofy, silly one that oftentimes people will do in like premarital counseling is when you go to the grocery store and it says butter. What do you buy? Do you buy sticks? Do you buy tubs? Is it real butter? Is it margarine? Is it can't believe it's not butter? Like you just it's on the list as butter, but depending on who goes to the store is what you come back with until you together have decided this is what butter is for our family. Like that's just a silly example. Or peanut butter. You go to the store. You say peanut butter. Okay, before we got married, I grew up in a house that was primarily a creamy peanut butter household because only one person in my family liked crunchy. My husband likes crunchy. I don't really care. If it's peanut butter, I'm down. So, but now when you put peanut butter on the grocery list, we never buy creamy. If I came home with creamy peanut butter, there'd be a comment of like, were they out of the real peanut butter? And it doesn't matter brand, but it has to be crunchy. Like there's little things like that. So it's really family of origin is everywhere. It's when do we open presents on Christmas? It's when do you eat pizza during the week? Is it a weekly food? It's also things like when we go to worship at church, what church do we go to? Does it matter what service we go to? It can be things like money is a big one where it's more intense. Like money means a little bit more to us than butter and peanut butter and when we open presents. Those are all lighthearted, kind of some traditional things, but money is an everyday thing we have to navigate in our world. And if we have different family of origin stories, experiences, understanding of how money works, conflict will pop up pretty quickly for any relationship.
So what is a family of origin? Explain that in case someone goes, I think I know what you mean, but I don't use that term.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and quote the John Gottman Institute as best I can, because really they are kind of the gurus when it comes to relationship knowledge. They describe family of origin as the beliefs, values, roles, and relationships that we learned along the way. So it can be anything that helps me when someone says define the world, define a system, define relationships, and I look at almost what's in my house. When I walk in the front door of my home, that's my family of origin. The energy that I felt, the love or lack thereof that I felt, the laughter I heard or didn't get to experience, what did meal time look like? What did quality time look like? What did faith practice look like, if there was any at all? All of those things, the stuff that's like the little building blocks into my world perspective is your family of origin. And we oftentimes refer to it just as family of origin instead of worldview because people built it up. It's a relational element of our culture. It's not just art and music, it's all in food. It's also the people who kind of put those pieces together for us.
So, how do we negotiate that when we have really different families of origin?
First things first, we have to recognize that we have different families of origin. We have to recognize that we have different ideas of what butter is or what version of peanut butter is. The other big part of it is we have to be able and willing to say that I want it to be different, that the places our family of origin is maybe butting up is a problem. So, the peanut butter example, when we first got married 15 years ago, when I brought home creamy peanut butter, and my husband said, "Oh, actually, I prefer crunchy." Like, or I think he was like, I think I might remember this. He was making a sandwich and he's like, "It's missing something. It's missing the peanut crunch. Like, that's my favorite. I love crunchy peanut butter." So that just became the thing that we just always bought. So, but that's a thing where I don't, like I said, I don't really care. It's peanut butter. Peanut butter is peanut butter to me. Like, I'm down. So there are some things where we differ in family of origin that for one person in the relationship, it might be more meaningful than it might be to the other. And it's easier to flex and kind of give up your perspective, you know? But there's other times where that's a big deal. That's high on my values list. That's high on my morals list. That's high on my perspective in the value we both bring to not only us as a couple or as friends, but also in the community that we're a part of, in the world that we are a piece of. And that's when the conflict comes up because there's an element of, especially if it's linked to values at all, that there's a turmoil that something's not right here. And if you feel turmoil, then that's a problem. But then there's that piece of you have to decide, is this a problem that I have to give up the relationship for? Or is the relationship so important, so valuable, so meaningful that I'm going to do something about the problem and stay in the relationship? And both people have to decide to navigate the problem. You can't solve a relational problem by yourself, which also can be tricky because it means you have to address the conflict. Like you have to actually recognize that there is one.
Well, here's an example. Two people get married, they come from different faiths. They're Christian, but very different types of Christian. And they figure this will all just work out. And we're going to attend your church because I don't really care. I don't really, quote, air quotes, care. But now we have a child, and my church baptizes infants, and your church does not. And now suddenly everybody, including in-laws, really care. Okay, Sarah, there's that. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think?
Mm-hmm. I think this one kind of hits a little bit close to home for me, partially because I come from basically that experience of I grew up in a Catholic Lutheran household where if you are born, you get baptized. That's how it works. And I know for my mother, who is still very devout in her Catholic faith, that us not baptizing our children was really frustrating and difficult for her. And we had to have the conversation with her. Well, we don't do it because our faith community doesn't do it. But we also, part of the reason that we, as a couple, kind of came to that conclusion was my husband was not baptized until he was in eighth grade or freshman year of high school. So, and his was kind of, he had gone through the confirmation class and then they realized he'd never been baptized. So they just did it all at once for him. So it was for us, like it was this element of he never really thought about it before. And for me, it was you baptize babies, but I also wanted to do whatever my community was doing. Um, so when you have those pieces where there's conflict potentially within yourself or from those family of origin spaces, like you're talking about, like all of a sudden your great aunt is calling and saying, "I can't believe you would baptize your baby. You're not letting them make the choice." Or the other great uncle is calling and saying, "Well, you have to baptize the baby or they're going to go to hell." That there's these, you have to remember those are your family of origins. They're not the family you're making right now. And the family you're making right now, this is the culture to focus on and build off of. We have to recognize where we're coming from is going to flavor that conversation. or we're coming from is going to impact it. But where I am here and now with my person, that's the culture I really have to work on and navigate. So then when you're willing to do that, when you're willing to say that those voices have value, but they are not the powerful voices are yours and mine, I think that opens up the possibility to conversation and exploration together. But if the two people making those choices if they're not both willing to converse, it's always going to either feel like someone loses, or you're never going to get to like solve the problem, and it's just going to be one of those like spots that just rubs awkwardly, probably for a really, really long time. There's some silly fact, and I wish I remembered the percentage, but it's basically the majority of things you disagree on when you get married, you will disagree on when you die and your marriage ends. And part of that is there's a rub from family of origin, is one aspect of it, that you're just not willing to give up. But oftentimes, those things that we hold on to until the very end, they're just not as important to us as the person that we're rubbing up against. And so we're just willing to keep kind of button heads on stuff. But there's some things that are difficult to do that with. And we just have to be willing to recognize, first of all, that there's a disconnect or a conflict. And then once we recognize there's one, then we can kind of decide, is it worth navigating? Is it worth tackling? Or do we just want to kind of live this way?
So Sarah, if I'm understanding what you're saying this affects everything. So it's not really about the issue. So two people could be fighting about something, but really what they're fighting about is not whatever it is they're fighting about. They need to take a few steps back and look at this family of origin issues. So the question for you, how would you help people to make that transition from, hey, we're fighting about X, or we're having a difficulty finding difficult to connect, to stepping back and realizing, okay, there's something that has shaped me. Now let's renegotiate this. Do you have a series of questions or tips that you think would be helpful to our viewers?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is that step of, hey, we have a problem. It's not you are a problem. It's not I am a problem. It's we have a problem. So when you approach it together, it's an invitation you actually want to accept. Like if you come into a party and everyone's like, you're the worst of the worst, it's the last thing I want to do is be there and I'm out. So we have to make sure that we're both coming into it as we have a problem, and you put it out in the middle. And then the other part that can be tricky, but you have to remember both people get a turn, kind of like the coin toss before a game when it's who gets the tip off or who gets the first pitch, whatever. You have to decide who gets to speak first and who gets to listen first. The best thing we can do when we are navigating and even just entering into conflict is recognize that we need to hear each other, and we both also need the chance to speak. So someone gets to be the speaker and someone gets to be the listener. If I'm the speaker, the trick is to stick to the facts and to actually just be 100% simple. You're not preaching to the masses. You're not writing a novel. You're speaking to your person and just being as direct as possible of, well, if we stick with the baptism thing, what I learned growing up is that you don't get baptized until you decide to be baptized. And that taught me that faith was important. So there's an element of, you say, what did I learn? What about whatever the issue is? And it could be an emotion too. It could be, well, I learned that anger was something that you made everyone well aware that you were angry, and you got to stand on your soapbox and chew everybody out because you were ticked off about something. So whether it's an element or an emotion, you name it. And this is what I learned about it growing up. And then you recognize, like, what did I actually like about that? There's something about what I learned that I like. That's why I'm holding on to it. There's something about that. And it could even just be the idea that there's comfort and I have some kind of understanding about this big issue or this big feeling. And then the next thing is like, well, how do I see this thing now? So if we go to the baptism question, I grew up that you don't baptize infants because faith is important. You need to make faith your choice. From that, I discovered I really do value the free will to turn to Jesus. And I want that to be part of our kids' lives. I want that to be part of both our lives. And my worldview now is I just really want my kid to know who Jesus is. So maybe baptizing them is a good way to integrate them into that. Or maybe I lean into what I've understood and known for a while and we let them make that decision. So you kind of go through the question of what did I learn? What did I like about it? It's also good to ask what I don't like about that. And then what does that mean for me now and today? And after I am done speaking, then my wonderful other side of the listener, they don't correct, they don't expand, they simply regurgitate. It's just like listening to a recording of a parrot or a tape recorder of what did I just say. And part of that is showing me as the speaker that you actually were listening to the words I was saying. For you as the listener, it means that you took time to hear those words instead of thinking up your rebuttal. Because if I'm busy thinking up my rebuttal, if I'm busy thinking up what I'm going to say to prove you wrong or get you on my side, I'm not actually listening to you because I'm too preoccupied making my own speech and getting ready to do that. Once that is done, once you get to speak and once I get to listen, then we flip and we honor each other the same way. The listener listens, truly listens, gets ready to spit it all back out as best they can. And the speaker is as direct and as simple as possible, kind of going through this is what the belief I had, this is what I liked about it, this is what I didn't like about it, this is what I'm thinking now today. And it can take some time and we can go back and forth over and over and over again. But if we do that, we practice truly listening to each other, it also gives us both a chance to process our perspective. And if I get to process perspective, that's what will help us get to a spot where we can find some kind of camaraderie or conclusion.
Sarah, you keep saying these 3 things, and I want to write them down for myself. So you said, okay, you're talking to your person. I've got this baptism issue, and now it's my turn to share, and I'm going to say, what's the first one?
It's what did I learn? What have I learned about this growing up? Or another way of saying that I think is what was my understanding of this coming into this part of my life?
And then what?
And then you ask and you share, what did I like about that? And what do I not like about that? What do I like about the fact that I come into this relationship with this perspective? And what do I not like about that?
Okay. So what did I learn about this growing up? I think you actually should probably stop and reflect on that before you even get in the conversation. I don't,
Yeah.
when I think back to my own past, like I was like, oh, well, I don't know what I learned about life. You know what I mean? And some of this seems to involve some self-reflection
Yeah,
in
totally.
advance.
And sometimes we don't even realize that we've never done that before because there's pieces of family of origin elements, I think, of growing up and developing our cognitive awareness and all the things of how I walk in the world that it's kind of like breathing. You just don't think about it. When I go to the grocery store, the only peanut butter that exists now is crunchy. Like, so it's just, I don't even think about it. Or the same thing with butter. You don't even think about it. There's all these options on the shelves and you just grab it. And that seems like such a silly example, but we treat even bigger issues just like the peanut butter and the butter at the grocery store. We just go the way that we learned how to go. And it's because that's all we only do as well as we know how. We only live in the way that we actually know how to do it. And if we don't ever take the time to question and contemplate and learn other perspectives and other ways of doing it, we can't ever recognize there's any other way. And I think that's where the element and the importance of that speaker listener passing the baton back and forth and truly leaning into listening and truly trying to choose our words well when we are speaking, it helps actually kind of establish like honoring that curiosity and expanding our understanding so that we can truly see where we're coming from. Because conflict oftentimes feels like, well, you don't like me anymore. Or in relationship or marriage, well, you don't love me anymore. We just shouldn't be together. And, we blow up like that. And then it's this, well, wait, actually, no, like we took vows. Like we entered a covenant. I want to honor that. And I want to honor that more than I want to deal with this conflict. I don't want this to tear us apart. But it can be hard to figure out how to navigate that conflict if we're not caringly curious and giving each other space to both speak and listen because we don't understand the other perspective yet.
Would you like a free daily devotional on your phone, encouraging you? Well, on Instagram and Facebook, you have at Dr. Barry Daily, and it takes you through the New Testament in a year, and it gives you a little encouragement for the day. So go check it out and follow at Dr. Barry Daily. Sometimes I think we could be worried about conflict with people because you worry you could lose the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you walk on eggshells, right? So okay, Sarah, so I actually know Sarah, quote unquote, in real life. And I just thought of a good example, which I have to confess, this is a low stakes issue for me. But then I thought, if I bring it up, so then obviously it's not as low stakes because I don't want to lose my friend. But this might be a good example. All right, are you willing to engage in this thing with this spur of the moment conversation?
Totally. Also,
Okay.
fully commit to still being friends
in
real life.
Thank you. It involves our kids and a campfire marshmallow s'mores.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we happen to be at a campfire together this summer and s'mores are involved, I have my underlying anxiety is chocolate at night keeps my children awake.
Mm-hmm.
And I have trouble with caffeine at night. And I know that my children this sugar and caffeine isn't a great pre-bed thing for my family. And so I tend to try and shy away from that. But it's what everybody does. Okay. So let's imagine that I'm feeling anxious about this. And so I want to bring it up because I'm wondering if there's another solution to the pre-bedtime sugar hit. So growing up, I learned my growing up understanding was that my parents didn't give a hoot about giving us sugar before bed. My family was totally cool with it. I didn't get it a lot. It was like a treat, but s'mores camping is like a must. It's not optional. I guess you could pass on it, but how sad. I like that because who wouldn't like flaming marshmallows at night? There's nothing better than that. But what I don't like is I know that I personally actually then have to take a heart pill to go to sleep. And my children respond in this really unfortunate manner. And I really want them to go to sleep because if they don't sleep well, it ruins my next day. So, friend, I have this situation and it causes me anxiety internally to bring it up, but I'm bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Could we marshmallow earlier in the evening?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I hear you saying, since I'm the listener and you are the speaker, is that when you were growing up, sugar at night was something that it was not an all the time thing, but when it did happen, no one really kind of cared so much. And so you just went for it. But and there's an element of that what you liked about that was that's pretty fun. And what you like about the idea of having s'mores at the glow of the campfire under the starry night sky with your friends is that's pretty romantic and pretty idealistic, right? Why wouldn't you want to do that? And everyone else is doing it. It's in all the books. It's in every vision of what we imagine nighttime campfire being is there has to be s'mores. What you don't like about that is you are well aware of the negative side effects that has for you and your family when it comes to getting rest so that camping continues to be fun. And that if we do s'mores late at night, because it's summer, and so you have to wait till it's dark and it's late, then no one gets good rest. And then the camping trip the next day is actually less fun and less enjoyable. The other part I hear you kind of saying is part of the reason I'm walking dangerous as the speaker, I'm walking dangerous territory. But I think what I hear you saying is part of the reason why you feel like you have to be okay with it is because everybody else is doing it. What it sounds like you would like now is not to get rid of s'mores, but maybe s'mores is a post-hike treat instead of a before bed treat. Am I hearing you right?
I would be so happy with that option.
I think we could probably
but
figure that
then
out.
it's not. But see, now we're discussing this, but I'm not
Mhm,
the only one on the trip, and other people have no problem with chocolate and sugar just before bed.
mhm, mhm. But the element of your solution, your vision is what I hear you saying is it's not that we get rid of s'mores. It's we just change the time that the group does s'mores. And if other people want to give their kid more chocolate as they're laying their head on their pillow in their sleeping bags, they can do that in their own tent on their own time. And but our group time is in the afternoon to do it. And I don't think there's, in the realm of family camping together, I have a feeling we could get people to buy into that. So there's this piece of listening to each other. And Melissa, I think this is a really great example of like this piece of like the thought in my head as the listener. This is where the listener has to come in, is I had to block myself off from, but Melissa, we're not the only two families on this camping trip. I'm not solving the problem. I'm just listening to my friend tell me what she's worried about or what is stirring her up and causing her anxiety, because this is, for those who don't know about this, our families get to go camping with other families every year. We're on like 5 or 6 years running, and there's like 8 other families there, but our family is kind of the instigator of this camping trip. So if Melissa and I talk about it together, we can better navigate how to help our community solve this problem, because it kind of does feel like it's a multi-layer relationship
Hmm.
thing. But so all that to say, I had to stop myself from solving the problem and being like, well, Melissa, this week we shouldn't talk about this. No, like my friend's telling me something's bothering her and I can listen to her, and then we can talk more about it. And when I regurgitate to her, which hopefully you feel like I spit back what you shared well and didn't go too far off track of adding my own thoughts and problem solving to it, then that made it so it went back to you as a speaker and provided you the chance to kind of offer up maybe a solution or an idea of how we can navigate it together. So there's this piece of, if I just listen, it actually, I say it takes time, sometimes the conversation goes faster
Hmm.
because I actually took the time to hear your perspective and reflect it back instead of solving on my own. Because if I solve it on my own, it goes to you're the problem or I'm the
Hmm.
problem, not we have a problem.
I even think something else there. When you talk about what you've learned and what you like about it, like when she was saying she would like to have a good night's sleep so that the next day is not ruined, you might actually find out that the underlying values are the same. The person who wants the children to be baptized and the person who wants the children to wait, you might find that what's driving those preferences are the same value. And it sounds like that's easier to see or to discover when they slow down. Have you seen stuff like that as you've worked with people?
Totally, especially when you take the time to, because it's like you said, we think the problem is the baptism. We think the problem is the chocolate at night. We think the problem is that I bought the wrong kind of peanut butter. But really what the problem is that we don't understand each other, or that whatever perspective one of us is bringing has so high on the values list that I'm feeling a little anxiety, conflict, turmoil around it. And that anxiety, conflict, turmoil is going to have a negative effect on our relationship. It's going to make it, like, if we go back to the s'more thing, it could make it that Melissa's family doesn't stay the night for camping. That they just, if it was a big enough deal, it could be they come out for the day and the minute tacos are done, they're out because they don't want to navigate that world where the anxiety is so high. But if we talk about it, we can find a way to, if s'mores really are, or the other side of this is, if s'mores were such a problem, if it wasn't just the time, if it was the s'mores itself that was a problem, then I have a choice to make. As the gatherer of the families of the camping trip, I can either change that we do s'mores at all and just chuck them out, or be like, well, sorry, Melissa, I guess you're not coming camping with us because this is a non-negotiable. And if anyone has ever had the opportunity to have tiny humans in your life, running around with other tiny humans, and the chance to be in community with other parents, with other tiny humans, you get rid of the s'more and you lean into the relationship. And like, I think that's the reality with any marriage, any relationship that has value. that we look at, and it's the I am better because of this. I have to figure out how to navigate that conflict. But I can't navigate it if we don't do it together and we don't invite that chance to reflect, seek understanding, ask questions, find a solution. And that it takes vulnerability, which is, Melissa, I love that you're like, I'm really nervous about this. It's not high stakes, and yet I feel a little nervous about it because we're being vulnerable. And I think sometimes, especially in marriage, we almost feel really silly being fearful of vulnerability with our person because they're in a covenant with us. They're not going anywhere. Part of us knows that. Another part of me is like, I know marriages end and I know that you could leave. And so sometimes we avoid conflict because we're so afraid that whatever the conflict is going to matter more to that person than me, than the relationship. But if I look at the covenant and if I look at the way God has called us to enter that relationship, if I have entered it in a way that honors who God is, if I've entered it in a way that honors the other person and honors myself, then I think I will be delightfully surprised to discover that the relationship is more meaningful than the conflict, than the problem. That can be hard to accept because we oftentimes will tear ourselves down. But if we've entered the covenant correctly, if we've done it in a way that's honoring God and honoring each other, then it's going to be honored. And that doesn't mean it feels good. Like, no matter how well you do conflict, it feels icky. Like, it's probably going to make you want to cry or throw up or yell or leave, or, we all respond differently. But usually the relationship is worth more than the conflict itself. And it's worth kind of trying to find a way to navigate together.
Yeah, and in like our kind of silly example, a real life thing, like people lose friendships over things like
Totally.
s'mores.
We won't. But yeah,
We
others do.
won't. We won't. No,
But others
we
do.
won't. But no, that's true.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes just because I bring this up to Sarah and ask Sarah to hear me doesn't mean I still don't have to flex. Right? Like maybe the option is we'll do s'mores in the middle of the day and at night. And if I have a struggle with that, then my kids just go to bed early, which won't go over well. You know what I mean? Like, but there are options, right? Or I might need to tell my kids we're going to do the marshmallow, but not the chocolate. But you can have the chocolate earlier. You know what I mean? Like now Sarah knows I have anxiety over this. Maybe we need some additional options, but I still may have to flex. Just because I share doesn't mean she has to accept that. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And we both can. Like usually, and that's the part of compromise, right? Like when we're navigating conflict and we're trying to find a solution, like it doesn't always mean compromise. Sometimes, like you said, someone has to flex. Like I think that servant heart of marriage or servant heart of relationships is sometimes I come last, and that means giving up my thing. But if something of my thing is so important, like the s'mores thing, at the heart of it, there's this piece of sitting around the campfire. We don't have to give up the campfire. We can not roast marshmallows and not eat chocolate late at night and still have camaraderie and joy around the campfire. But if it was, well, we have to get rid of the campfire and the s'mores, not do anything late at night, then it's this like, well, is there anything different we can do? Because there's pieces of that at the heart of it. The heart of s'mores is all of our kids are laughing and giggling together. That's what we want to create. So the heart of any problem is what's the core value? What's the thing that your perspective and mine, what does it, like what you're saying, Agam, like what does it actually supply? What need does it address? What value does it highlight? Once I know that core thing, that makes it way easier to figure out when we eat the chocolate or if we have a campfire. Because what's the core? The core element is the thing to protect and to care for. And sometimes that means one person has to completely give up their side. The other times we find a compromise. The good news, I think, too, is if we're honoring that covenant piece, if we're doing this in a way that honors one another the way that God honors us and loves us and serves us and accepts us and redeems us and cares for us and all those wonderful things that come with being in connection with God, if you and I are reflecting that the best we can to each other, I'm not only giving that, I'm also receiving it. And when we navigate conflict kind of over and over and over again, which we will, because we're people and we butt heads around all the things all the time, then eventually at some point I will get the thing where I get to keep my side and you release yours. Or we compromise in a way that feels like, for lack of better putting it, I win. Like it's not always 100% compromise. It's not 100% always one side gives up and one side gets it. We kind of flex and do it together.
As we talk about this, there's a scriptural passage that has been on my mind as you were describing this family of origin thing, and it's from Genesis, right at the beginning. Jesus also quotes it. Paul quotes it again in his letter to the Ephesians, where it says, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and be united with his wife, and the two of them will become one flesh." And as I think theologically about what you're saying, when I look at that scripture, what I'm hearing is leaving your father and your mother, who brought you into this world, basically who showed you the meaning of life, but now
Hmm.
you're connecting with a different person and creating another unit with that person. So there's a whole lot of renegotiation that's happening. And you're not losing contact with the father and mother, but this is an offshoot, as it were. Does that ring true with the family of origin?
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And the reality is, like you said, you leave and you connect and become one on your own. That doesn't mean all that doesn't mean everyone else who was before just dissolves and never again impacts you. Because even if they as the people are gone, if you really have no family in the world physically with you anymore, the ways that they built you up as a person are still there. You don't need the human being is not the family of origin. The lessons that they taught you, what they gave you, is your family of origin. It's the lens that you look through. And yeah, and it's I think the other part too, if you think about it through this lens, it's the sometimes we think like, well, if what if we never have kids? We're not really building another culture because there's no one else to be impacted by it. Well, yes, it is. It's your family, and your family might just be you and your spouse. But you're building another culture. You're creating another family of origin. Even if there's no one to inherit it, you're still creating a culture together.
So, Sarah, what do we do if this maybe this is the wrong term? You two tell me, the leave and cleave. Um, what if the other person won't emotionally isn't like, I don't know, isn't leaving emotionally the other family? And as you bring up, it makes me think of like someone in foster care, right? Maybe they had 15 families, but the actual system, the childhood itself, all of that together created a family of origin,
Hmm.
if you will. Um, or what if I am having trouble? Like I grew up in a family that has this, I don't know, I'm making this up, but what if I grew up with, say, a lot of fear or anxiety over this certain issue? Um, what if I have been able to kind of leave and cleave and create? Like, what do you do when the other person is stuck or when you feel stuck?
One of the things that you're pointing out that I really appreciate and like is highlighting that idea that our family of origin might come from multiple places. That, we some of us come from blended families where, we've gotten bonus parents and bonus siblings, or like my family, my dad remarried and his wife has four children, and we grew up adjacent to each other, but we weren't friends growing up. And so all of a sudden my dad is married and I have in on paper four step siblings, but I don't call them my step siblings because we didn't grow up together. But so we have different families that are structured differently. We have different chunks of family that raised us. We have different settings that we were raised in. All of that, whether it's one couple or 10 couples, that's all your family of origin. That's all that foundational piece. The thing that I think I hear you kind of pointing out is what happens when someone refuses to do that or can't do it. Oftentimes, it's this element of we only do as well as we know how. And if I don't know how to connect or I don't feel safe connecting, that's going to impact how my family of origin kind of manifests in a relationship with you, how my connection to you manifests. And we call that attachment styles. So, in the world of mental health and counseling, there's this theory called attachment theory. And the idea behind attachment is kind of I am, others are, therefore the world is. And it's this lens that we look through of how interested in connection I am, and how much connection is either exciting for me or causes me a lot of stress. So there's 4 areas of attachment theory, attachment styles that we kind of look at. There's secure attachment, preoccupied or anxious attachment, dismissive, avoidant attachment, and fearful attachment. If I am securely attached, which is the dream, basically it's I want to be in a relationship with people, and relationships don't make me anxious. That in my head, why wouldn't you be my friend? And why wouldn't I want to be yours? That secure attachment people are relatively confident going into relationships. If I'm preoccupied or anxiously attached, I have low avoidance of relationships. I want as many connections as possible, but I'm super, super anxious about what relationship will mean and maybe require of me. And so it's kind of the easiest way to describe an anxiously attached person is I love you, I hate you, don't leave me. Like it's kind of that I just can't get my claws out of you, but also like I'm pushing you out the door at the same time. Because I want to be connected, but your connection scares me. Then, if you look at the dismissive, avoidant people, they have low anxiety about what the relationship will cost them, what it means for them, but they have high avoidance of relationships because, you know, why do I need you? I'm fine on my own. The fearful avoidant person is both not very interested in creating attachments to other people because they're scary, they're not trustworthy, people are bad, and I'm bad. And if they are in connection with someone, there's a lot of anxiety around it. There's a lot of fear because relationships aren't safe. And that's everything from the lady who gives me a sample at Costco to my pastor to my neighbor to the person I'm romantically involved with. So we're all kind of, and each one's kind of on a spectrum. And you can kind of look at it and think about like what relationships look like and see where you fall. But if I'm a securely attached person with a fearfully avoidant person, I'm going to have a hard time understanding why the heck you're running away all the time and why you don't trust me. Because I walk in the world as you and I are both trustworthy people. You and I are both worth love. You and I are both worth of having our own say and perspective and opinion. But in your world, if you're fearfully avoidant, you and I don't matter. I don't matter. You don't matter. Relationships suck. The world's on fire all the time. Why are we even trying? So when those people get together, conflict arises often because the minute you go past ordering milkshakes through the drive-through and looking at the starry night sky, when you get into actually doing life together, we have a hard time doing that because the ways we come at life are so drastically different. The ways that I trust the world, the ways that I trust myself, the ways I trust you, there's so much about that that feels incongruent or like it can't match up that we end up fighting a lot. And if I know where I fall in attachment styles, the good news is if you're in anywhere that's not secure, you can move toward security. But it takes work. It takes that piece of I'm going to honor you. I'm going to respect you. I'm going to do things like listen to you. I'm going to do things like let you speak your words. And you're going to build it back with me by letting me speak my words. And you're going to listen to me. And it takes a lot of work, but it is really, we can impact each other a lot through that. But our growing up, that's a big piece, I think, of is how we attach to the other people.
But it is doable?
It's totally doable, but it's only doable if we're both in it. And that's the hard part. So that the preoccupied, anxious attachment style, I love you, I hate you, don't leave me. That person will chase a fearful, avoidant person who wants nothing to do with relationships down the street for years. That's a little stereotypical, but they're like, if they're chasing someone off, like the fearful, avoidant person might need some time and space to figure this out. An anxiously attached person is going to feel like the world's on fire and it's ending because you need some time and space. So we kind of together have to decide, are we both in it or are we not? And if you aren't, if that other person is not willing to invest time, to compromise, to explore, to be curious about themselves and about you, then it might mean the end of a relationship. And that's really, really hard. But it's not, not every relationship is meant to exist forever. Our hope, especially entering marriage, is that it will be, that it's a covenant that reflects the love of God. But if I've entered that in a way that doesn't honor God and honor you and honor me, that's going to impact what that relationship looks like. And yeah, but it's tricky. But for it to truly work, for there truly to be healing, we both have to be in it because that's relationship, right? Like you can't just be by yourself and be in a relationship. It's us together.
Well, and it is called life together.
Hmm. Yeah. I heard someone was talking about how we talk about how marriage is hard, and it's like, well, and they said, well, marriage isn't hard. It's the doing life together that's hard. Like marriage is the fun part. It's the life part that integrates itself into our marriage that can be hard and tricky. But again, if I'm willing to be caringly curious about you and you are of me, then it's fun and we get to kind of figure it out. Fun doesn't always mean easy. Fun does not always mean that it's butterflies and rainbows and our favorite dessert late at night. Like it also means early anxious mornings where we didn't sleep the night before and we're trying to figure out how to talk about this thing that feels really hard to talk about. Or it's figuring out, how we make big decisions with our resources and with our time. What do we
Mm.
do for our jobs? Like all of that is impacted off of our willingness to invest in each other and our willingness to accept the investment of another person. I think that's a big, oftentimes we talk a lot about like, what do I have to do to make this relationship better or make it work or whatever. And it's not just that. It's what do I have to do and what do I have to accept from the other person? Because if the other person could be asking the same questions, but if I'm not accepting their work, like how frustrating is that? How frustrating is it to love someone with all your might and have them just be like, "Oh, thank you for the lovely gift," and like set it aside and not even acknowledge that you gave it to them. But if they open it and they appreciate it and they enjoy it and they express gratitude and they actually lean into it, like that's when it gets good. Like that's when connection truly happens. But we have to be willing to accept it and willing to give it. Now, oftentimes, I think when we talk about relationships, we only talk about one of those directions, but both have to happen. Both have to be there.
Right.
Well, Sarah, is there anything else you haven't shared that we haven't asked you that you would like to share with our viewers on this topic?
I don't know if it's necessarily something I haven't said, but what I would really hope that everyone kind of takes away and carries with them is that a past is a part of who you are, but it doesn't have to define who you are. Today is not yesterday. And that's true not only for you as an individual, but you in a relationship with others. And I would encourage everyone to pursue today with caring, beloved curiosity of your people, whether that's a friend, a child, a spouse, a significant other. Enter the day caringly curious, enter the day leaning into each other's belovedness, and be willing to let them do the same for you. It's a back and forth. And I think that's something that we just have to remember.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for letting me talk about people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining
that
us
was really
today.
good.
And we're going to get to talk to Sarah twice. So this is going to be fun. So thank you, Sarah. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Sweet. See you later.
Thank you, Sarah. God bless.
Wait, don't leave. I have a blessing for you. And before that, thank you so much to everybody who has hit like, subscribed, followed, left a positive comment, shared with a friend, all the things you can do to bless us. Actually, it really, really helps. So thank you very much. And thank you to those who give to us monthly or even a one-time gift. Go to cldm.online or melissaortizberry.com. It'll make its way to the ministry. We are a nonprofit and every gift helps. Now for that blessing. Lord God, I just pray for this one listening right now. I just pray if they have been thinking about a difficulty they're having in a relationship with someone, I pray that you would intervene with that person and you would help create true communication, deep communication. I pray, Lord, as we think about the problems we have, you would bring to our mind the things that we have brought in that make the communication difficult. Father, I pray that you would make a way where there is no way. I pray for a stream in the desert. I pray for a miracle. I pray that there would not be a broken relationship. There would be mended relationship. Give this person supernatural patience and discernment and love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All God's people said amen. Go stick that amen in the comments. Thank you, friend. And I look forward to seeing you next time on Podcast Life Together.